weaving stories around people, sometimes in the most unexpected places. For Alina and Aiden, their story didn't start with fireworks or cinematic glances across a crowded room. It began in the quiet corners of an old library, where dust floated in golden beams of sunlight and the silence was almost holy. Alina was the type of girl who carried poetry in her veins. Her friends always teased her for being lost in books more than she was in real life. At 22, she was studying literature at a university known for its grand halls and even grander traditions. She believed in love, the type she had read in Jane Austen's novels, the kind that made people wait at train stations and write letters by candlelight. But she also believed that such love didn't belong to her world. Her world was filled with exams, half-empty coffee cups, and deadlines that stretched her nights into sleepless marathons. Aiden, on the other hand, was everything opposite to her. A computer science major, logical, sharp, and always practical, he didn't believe in poetry. He didn't even believe in the idea of love the way movies or books painted it. For him, relationships were like codes, predictable if you followed the right steps, solvable if you had the patience to debug. But fate has a way of making opposites collide in ways that rewrite both lives. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when their paths crossed. Alina sat at her usual table in the library, her notebook open, pen tapping against the margin as she underlined a quote from Emily Dickinson. The raindrops on the window beside her painted the outside world in blurred silver streaks. She was so absorbed that she didn't notice when someone pulled the chair opposite her. Aiden had been looking for a quiet spot to work on his coding assignment, away from the noisy cafeteria. The only available seat was across from the girl who looked like she belonged to another century, her hair loose around her shoulders, her glasses slipping down her nose. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, his voice low. Startled, Alina looked up. For a moment, she just stared. He had eyes the color of stormy skies, and there was something in the sharpness of his jaw that made him look serious, almost unapproachable. "No," she finally said, moving her books slightly to give him space. And just like that, the first page of their story was written. At first, they barely spoke. He typed furiously on his laptop, and she scribbled in her notebook. But Alina couldn't help noticing his concentration, the way his fingers moved across the keys as if the keyboard were a piano and he was composing music. Aiden, on his side, noticed her humming softly while reading, almost like she was singing to herself. It was the smallest thing that finally broke the silence. Her pen rolled across the table and stopped at his laptop. He picked it up, handed it back without a word. But when their fingers brushed, Alina felt a strange warmth crawl up her arm. "Thanks," she whispered. He nodded, and though it seemed like nothing, both of them carried that tiny moment with them after leaving the library. The next Thursday, he found himself in the library again. The same table, the same girl. She was there before him, of course, her notebook already open, a cup of coffee steaming beside her. "You again," he said, almost smiling. "Me again," she replied, smiling fully this time. And so, a rhythm began. Every Thursday afternoon, they met at that table, sometimes by accident, sometimes deliberately. Their conversations were slow at first, awkward in the way strangers struggle to find common ground. But week after week, walls began to crumble. He asked why she was always writing. "I like keeping pieces of the world," she said. "Some people take photographs. I take words." She asked why he always seemed tired. "Coding," he admitted. "Sometimes it feels like I'm trapped inside my laptop." She teased him for being too serious. He teased her for being too dreamy. Yet, beneath the banter, something invisible was building. One evening, when the library lights dimmed, Alina dared to ask, "Do you ever believe in fate?" Aiden closed his laptop, considered the question. "I believe in cause and effect. Choices. Logic. Not fate." "That's boring," she laughed. "Sometimes it's nice to think the universe pushes people together for a reason." "Like us?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Her smile faltered for just a second. "Maybe." And for the first time, his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but close enough. The weeks became months. What began as accidental meetings turned into planned ones. They explored the campus together, discovered hidden coffee shops, exchanged books and playlists. Alina introduced him to poetry, he introduced her to coding puzzles. She read him Rumi, he taught her how to build a website. But it wasn't just knowledge they exchanged, it was pieces of themselves. Alina learned the spring semester brought a shift in everything. The snow melted, Flowers bloomed across campus lawns, and with them, Alina and Aiden's quiet bond grew louder, brighter, and harder to hide. They had developed their own rituals. Sunday mornings were for coffee and crossword puzzles, which Aiden always solved faster, though Alina claimed she let him win. Tuesday evenings were for long walks by the river, where Alina would quote poetry, and Aiden would roll his eyes before secretly googling the verses later. Thursdays, of course, were sacred, reserved for their library table, where their story had first begun. It wasn't just about being together, it was the way their worlds blended. Aiden's friends started teasing him about becoming softer, about the way he smiled more easily now. Alina's friends joked that she'd finally found someone real, instead of living in her books. But not everything was light. Love, even in its most delicate beginnings, has a way of shaking the ground beneath it. One evening, after a long day of lectures, Alina found herself waiting outside the computer lab for Aiden. He had promised they'd go for dinner, but as the minutes turned into an hour, her heart sank. Finally, he appeared, exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "You forgot, didn't you?" she asked softly. Aiden sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "Alina, I'm sorry, I got caught up in this project. It's due tomorrow, and my whole grade depends on it." Her chest tightened. She wanted to understand, she really did, but a part of her felt the sting of being second choice. "You could have just texted me," she whispered. He looked guilty. "You're right, I should've. I'll make it up to you, I promise." She forced a smile, but inside, something cracked. It wasn't the first time. As the semester grew heavier, Aiden was consumed by his studies and internship applications. Alina, meanwhile, poured herself into writing competitions and poetry readings. Their worlds, once beautifully overlapping, started to drift. They still met, still laughed, still held on to their rituals, but now, silence sometimes filled the spaces where words used to flow. One night in the library, Alina closed her book and stared at him. "Do you ever feel like we're slipping?" she asked suddenly. He looked up, startled. "Slipping, like we're not us anymore," she said, her voice breaking slightly. Aiden frowned. "Alina, we're just busy. It doesn't mean we're falling apart." "But what if it does?" she whispered. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then we fight for it, okay?" Her eyes softened, tears threatening. She nodded, and for a while, that promise held them together. But fate was testing them in other ways. One of Alina's poems won her an invitation to perform at a literary festival in another city. She was thrilled, buzzing with excitement, and of course, she wanted Aiden there. "It's next Saturday," she said, eyes shining. "You'll come, right?" Aiden hesitated. That same weekend, he had a crucial interview for a prestigious internship. "Alina, I can't," he said quietly. Her smile faltered. "Can't, or won't. Please don't do that," he replied, frustration creeping in. "This is important for my future. And this isn't important for mine." She shot back. The silence that followed was heavy, painful. For the first time, they walked away from each other without saying goodbye. The festival came, and Alina stood on stage, her heart aching with both pride and emptiness. She delivered her poem with fire, earning a standing ovation. But in the crowd of cheering faces, the one she wanted most was missing. Meanwhile, Aiden sat in a sterile interview room, answering questions with precision. He secured the internship, but when the acceptance email arrived, his chest felt hollow. The first person he wanted to tell wasn't there. That night, they didn't call each other. Days turned into weeks, and the distance grew. They still loved, but love alone wasn't always enough. Misunderstandings piled up like bricks in a wall they didn't know how to break. Alina felt invisible. Aiden felt pressured. Both were hurting, but neither knew how to bridge the gap. Until one stormy night changed everything. Alina had been walking back from a late poetry reading when the rain poured unexpectedly. She had no umbrella, no jacket. By the time she reached the library steps, she was soaked, trembling from the cold and from the heaviness inside her. And then she saw him, Aiden, waiting there, drenched as well, as if the storm hadn't touched him because his storm was bigger inside. "Alina," he breathed, stepping toward her. She froze. "Why are you here?" "Because I couldn't stay away anymore," he said, his voice cracking. "I know I've hurt you. I know I've been absent. But the truth is, none of it matters without you. The internship, the grades, what's the point if I'm losing you?" Her tears blended with the rain. Do you even understand how lonely it's been? Standing on stage, looking for you, and you weren't there. Every time I reached for you, you were somewhere else. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. I'm sorry. I thought I was doing all this for us, for a future we could share. But I forgot that the future means nothing if I lose the present with you. Alina's chest ached. She wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at her. You promise me now, she whispered, her voice shaking. If you stay, you stay. No half measures. No running when it gets hard. Aiden cupped her face, his thumb brushing away rain and tears alike. I promise. I'll fight for us. Always. And then, under the thunder and lightning, they kissed, fierce, desperate, like two souls finding their way back. Dash dash dash. The storm marked their rebirth. From then on, they began to rebuild. It wasn't perfect. Love never is, but they learned to communicate, to balance, to prioritize each other. Aiden made time, no matter how busy, to show up at her readings. Alina sat with him through long coding nights, bringing coffee and quiet encouragement. They didn't just share moments, they fought for them. And slowly, the cracks in their foundation became stronger bonds. Dash dash dash. But life wasn't done testing them. As graduation approached, another challenge loomed. Aiden's internship offered him a full-time position, on the other side of the country. When he told Alina, her world spun. You're leaving, she whispered, her throat tight. He reached for her hands. I don't want to leave you. But this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Her heart pounded. She had always believed love was about staying, about presence. Could love survive distance? Tears filled her eyes. Aiden, I can't lose you again. He held her tightly. You won't. I swear. No matter where I go, you're my home. And yet, deep down, both of them knew the real test was just beginning.